Welcome back to part 6. Now, the basis in which these allegations originated from go right back to 2006, where they were investigating my partner back then, and they made the assumption that I was now going to go to work as an AFP officer and intimidate those who were saying things were happening. Not so true. But we've got to hear what they've got to say first before we can prove the points. Now, Mr. Agate, going by what Peter Beadle says here, Mr. Agate had, whilst on duty in AFP uniform, engaged in intimidating and threatening conduct towards complainants. Never happened. In fact, I didn't talk to any staff about what was going on. I had a conversation with my auntie, who had asked me some questions. We'll get to her later. And Steve Castell, supervisor for ISS, who also ex-police from England, was asking me a lot of questions. I answered them. They said, what is she going to do? She's going to go to the union, she'll go to the QARC, she'll take the matter where it needs to go. That sort of conversation. So, after he had that's where he started. And remember, he had already informed the union that he was going to come after my job. So this is how he's justifying it to the courts, that he's going to come after my job. It really had nothing to do with any of this. It never happened, so how could it? But looks good in writing, right? If you gave that to a judge, he'd look at you and go, yep, you're a troublemaker. So after all that, on August 18, 2006, they had given my ex a formal warning. Approximately, they go on to talk about what she had done or allegedly done, which didn't go very far. But around June 2006 is where they make a note, Mr. Agate's conduct reported to the AFP. Now there's a document about that. We'll get to that one shortly too, because the copy the AFP got was not the copy I got. Now, he goes on to say, I understood that it was done as a consequence of Mr. Agate's actions, and in order to protect the integrity of ISS Security's own investigation into the complaints against Ms. Fabe, also to protect the integrity of its own operations in the workplace, including ISS's obligations under the law to provide a safe workplace. Now, considering that on August 2nd, 2006, Mr. Pitkin had informed him that he had reported me to the Australian Federal Police. So Mr. Pitkin referred to these allegations to the AFP. It was alleged Mr. Agate was involved in an incident on the 21st of September 2006, which he approached one of our complainants and made remarks to which she understood as to be threatening and intimidated. That's the Kerry Short statements. Now, Kerry Short was a driver to want to be a supervisor. She had always wanted to be a supervisor. I spoke to her many times over coffee, having chit-chats, and at no point did I ever discuss or intimidate or threaten anything to do with what was going on with Hayley. I didn't have any business in it. So Mr. Pitkin reported to me that this event left the complainant feeling scared and intimidated. Now, the AFP interviewed Kerry Short, and there was no evidence of that at all. Once it was brought to a level of actual investigation from a law enforcement position, where you know if you make a statement, you can be charged for making false accusations, there was no accusation to be made. And the reason that is because she was instructed to write that letter. Now, of course, I can't prove that. The only person who could prove that is her. And it doesn't really matter. The case has been heard. It's been done. So whether she was instructed or not is irrelevant. But from the conversations I had with Kerry after this had come to light, she was instructed to do it. And that was out of work. That was not even, I'd already resigned from the AFP by then when she approached me and we had this discussion. So that would be what one would call hearsay if I tried to put that up into the court of law, which is why I didn't bring it up, because I would need to bring Kerry in as a witness, and I wasn't bringing anybody. I was going on my own. I didn't bring her because I didn't need her. I didn't need to prove to ISS that she did anything or didn't do anything. She was still working for them. If I did that, it would have jeopardised the job. She would have had to be treated as a hostile witness. So, it just would have made things messy. So when people like that are involved, leave them out, because they're going to make your life hell. You got to treat them as hostile because they're trying to protect their job. I didn't want to take her wages from her. I didn't want to lose the job. So just leave her out of it. Deal with her another way. We'll get to that later too. On October 25th, 2006, Mr. Pitkin informed that the Commonwealth Ombudsman wrote to Pickman notifying him that the AFP had received his complaint. The Ombudsman wrote that under the Federal Police Act, that the Commonwealth Ombudsman and the AFP have joint responsibility for handling complaints about the AFP, and the AFP required to notify the Ombudsman about the complaints that it receives, now produced and shown in Mark PB4 as a copy of the letter dated 25th of October from the Ombudsman to Mr. Pitkin. So it's just a letter of acknowledgement that the Ombudsman has the letter. On March 26, 2007, he received a letter from Mr. Raggett dated March 23, 2007, stating that since Mr. Pitkin made the complaint about his conduct during the ISS investigation and allegations against Ms. Fabay, that he had taken leave due to work-related stress, and produced, shown to me, marked PB5, a letter dated 23 of March from Mr. Agate to ISS. Now, I did that for a number of reasons. Firstly, when you're being attacked by a company, you need to remove yourself. So, stress leave, it's applicable. You're under stress, so take time off. It also removes any opportunity for them to now say you're intimidating witnesses, which they'd already tried, that you're bullying staff, which they already tried. So for everyone that they can get to write a comment about you, and they do it quite coercively, you remove all that. You remove their ability to build ammunition, because their tactic was to throw enough rubbish, something will stick. But it didn't stick with all the rubbish they threw, because I removed myself. So that way, they couldn't make up more allegations. And that's the first thing you have to do. Whether you take sick leave, stress leave, long service leave, doesn't matter what leave you've got, use it all. Every last bit. When it's all used up, go to your doctor and get onto a compo claim for stress leave. And use as long as you can until this is resolved, so that they can't build information against you and use it against you. So if you separate yourself, it gives you every day, all day, to nut out a solution to bring people like this to accountability. And it's great when you wake up in the morning, you have a coffee, you sit down at your computer, and you start nutting out letters and send them from everyone, from the Premier to the Queen, and everyone below, everyone associated. I sent out hundreds. And people go, oh, but I haven't got the time. But you do. Once you've removed yourself from a workplace, you've got all the time in the world. It doesn't take long to punch out a letter. 15 minutes. You can do 60 letters in a day. Sometimes you just photocopy the same letter and send it to all different people. You can do this. It is not impossible. I've shown it can be done. Keep following my feeds and I'll teach you exactly how to do it. Thanks for listening. Please like and share this. I think the world needs to know.